Uniquely Cindy here. Jumping in here, I want to introduce to you a video series that I am starting next week. And this video series, is going to be about the Thyatira Presbyterian Church and Graveyard in Rowan County here in North Carolina. This church is the oldest documented church in Western North Carolina. It goes back to the 1700s. The land was deeded, 12 acres of the land was deeded to the church in, I believe it was 1753 by John and Naomi Lynn, Lynn, and they were given 12 acres of land. They built a log cabin meeting house. Back before the Civil War, the churches were known as meeting houses, and the church was known as Lower Meeting House. And then in 1755, it became Kathy's Meeting House. And the first church was a log cabin. The second church, I believe, was a plank building. And then, of course, in 1858 to 1860, they started building the current church, which is a beautiful, as you will see on the video, a beautiful brick building. On the inside of the church, I was privileged enough to be able to go inside. While I was walking the grounds around the church, the organist happened to pull in. He had come to take care of some business there, and so he opened the church up. It was New Year's Day, so I didn't think I'd be able to see the inside, but he opened the church up and let me go in, and it was beautiful. A lot of the inside is still original, and you have a lot of the original furniture on the platform. You have the slave gallery, which goes around the top of the church, and it's got some areas of the church has got the closed-in pews, and it was just beautiful. When I was talking to the organist, and his name happened to be Charlie, his last name was Chan something. I could not pronounce the last part of his name. He said it too quickly, so he just told me to call him Charlie Chan. So as I was talking to Mr. Charlie, he was telling me that the original pews after the Civil War that were in the slave gallery, they had taken out because it still had the holes in them that they would run the slave chains through to keep the people chained up during the church service. So I thought that was interesting. I told him, I said, you should have kept it. That was a part of history. Of course, he had nothing to do with that because that was 100 years ago. So, but he was telling me about that history. Also, in that church, at that church, they have a museum that I was invited back to, so I will be going back in the future. They have a picture of King Charles III and his wife, Queen Charlotte, and it is a signed portrait that was given to one of the generals of the American Revolutionary War, and they have it there in the church. So I will be going back, and if they will allow me to film the museum, I will take some pictures of all that because that's a national treasure to me right there. And so I'll be sharing that with you in the future. There were some things that happened while I was there that I was going to edit out of the video because it will be a little controversial when I tell you what happened. Each its own, believe what you believe, but I will tell you what I felt and what I saw. And my husband saw it. I showed it to him when I got there, and he said, no, leave it there. It happened. Leave it there. So you will see it in the video. Now, in the graveyard, it goes all the way back to the 1700s, and there are some graves in there that you will see that I specifically filmed. A lot of them in the 1700 part of the cemetery were very hard to read because time is just, taken over, and the engravings were not very deep, so time has worn them off. But there were some that I was able to read, and some they have modernized because of who the people were. For example, you have buried in that cemetery John and Jean Knox, and John Knox passed away in 1758, and Jean Knox passed away in 1772. These were the great-grandparents of John Knox Polk, who was the 11th president of the United States. And then his great-grandfather was also buried there, and his name was John. Or his great-grandfather was buried there, his name was John. Thomas and Naomi Gillespie was one of the first settlers of Rowan County, and they both passed away in 1796. You also have numerous war veterans. And when you think, or my generation, at least for me, when I think about the war in United States, my mind automatically goes to the Civil War. But we had the American Revolution long before we had the Civil War. And there was the Spanish and Indian War. There were skirmishes with American Indians. There were other skirmishes along the way. And then, of course, we had World War I and World War II, the Vietnam War, the Korean War. We have wars all through the history of our nation. And that particular cemetery has got soldiers from every walk of our American history. And I found that to be very interesting. It's the first time that I've walked into a cemetery and seen patriot written on graves. It's the first time I've walked into a cemetery. I go to cemeteries all the time and see the iron crosses of the Civil War. But it's the first time I've gone into a cemetery and saw the badges of the American Revolution War. And so I thought that that was very interesting. Also in the cemetery, you will see, when we get to, I keep saying cemetery, but it's actually a graveyard since it's on church property. You will see 4 graves, and I'll tell about it in the video in more depth, but there's 4 graves there that have no names, but they all have the cross and the skull bone. Can you guess who they were? They have an interesting story, and it will be in my final video for this series toward the end of the week. So make sure you stay tuned and watch about the 4 cross and skull bone graves. Now, getting back to my visit inside the church, like I said, it was a beautiful church. It was a lovely time. Mr. Charlie was very good. I will have 2 very short videos. On the first video you see, you'll hear the pipe organ. On the second 2 videos that you see, he plays the keyboard in one, and then he does a rendition that he said he put together of It Is Well With My Soul on a grand piano. And all 3 are beautiful, so enjoy that. But while going up to the slave gallery, there was a set of 8 to 10 steps that you had to go up to get into the gallery. I'm always cautious on stairs because I'm very clumsy. And these were the Old English stairs. And if you know anything about Old English or early colonial day staircases, they're in like a pie shape. One end is very, very narrow, and then the other end's big enough for a small foot. The rest of you just got to be very careful going up them. I had on my cowboy boots also that day, so I knew from going to England, I had to be careful going up those steps. And so I went up to the the right side of the steps, which is the wider part of the steps. And when I got up to about the 5th step, it goes to turn around the corner, and you had a flat landing there, and you go around the corner. When I went to step on that landing, I came across a barrier. And I could not, when I'd go to go forward, it was like there was something there and I couldn't go forward. And when I went to go try to push past it there for a minute, I actually end up, you'll see in the video where I go down on the step, didn't fall, but I put my hand down on the step to regain my composure because it was strong enough I couldn't push past it. And I stopped for a few minutes and I said, well, what in the world? And I thought maybe it was just me. Because like I said, I am clumsy and I am a little shaky on stairs. So I said, well, this, And so I went ahead and I moved to the left, which made it harder for me to get up. But I sidestepped up to the next step. And when I sidestepped and went around that barrier, and I say barrier for lack of a better word. There was nothing visible there for you to see. But you will see me put my hand down on the steps because I bent at the waist because I couldn't get past that point. And then when I moved to the left, I was able to pass. I went on up the stairs, got into the gallery. The gentleman was still playing the organ, and he stopped when I walked into the gallery. And he stood up, and he's on the other side of the gallery talking to me, and I'm panning the gallery, and I'm talking about how beautiful it is, and I thanked Mr. Charlie for playing the pipe organ and how lovely it sounded. And I stepped down into the gallery. My feet are solid on the floor. And I wasn't moving after I stepped down. It was a 1 step down. And after I stepped down, I didn't move again because I'm just standing there filming. You'll see me filming the other side, the other end of the church, and coming up the side I was standing on. Well, very quickly after I started filming, you'll hear me holler. And I'll go, oh, something. What? I don't know. I was not moving. I was not on a step. I was flat on the floor, but something pushed me in between my shoulder blades, just below my shoulder blades, about where not in the small of my back, it was above my waistline and the shoulder blades. and it hit me in the back and knocked me straight forward. Now, every fall that I've ever had, I've fallen to my right side or I've fallen to my left side. But this was a straightforward plunge, and it hit me hard. I felt the hit, and I went down on the ground. You hear me holler. You'll see the camera fly out of my hand. My glasses flew off. My glasses broke, and I've got some nice bruising and cuts here on the side of my face. You can see my glasses broke. And I immediately, when I hit the ground, I hit the railing going over the gallery. And I remember grabbing the edge of the rail spindle, and I said, oh my. And I stopped for just a second. My first thoughts was, I'll be honest with you, that I had been pushed by the organist, and I'm going, what in the world? And I jumped up and I swung around, and he was still on the other side of the building, because my instincts kicked in, fight or fly. And so my instincts kicked in, and when I turned around and I saw that he was still on the other side of the building and I was on this side of the building by myself, it floored me. And so I sat down on the pew and I picked up my glasses. I said, I broke my glasses. And you will hear him say on the video, well, glasses can be fixed. And he still stayed on the other side of the building. And so I sat there for a few minutes. I said, I'm going to cut my video off. And I cut the video off. And that's all you see for a few minutes while I composed myself, because I'm trying to compute all this in my head. I mean, I was standing still. I was on flat ground. I was pushed from the back, or I felt like I was pushed from the back. And I had a blow to my head. It was bleeding. And I didn't know how to explain it. Still don't quite know how to explain it. I know what I feel, but I don't know how to explain it. So you'll see me cut the video back on. And when I cut the video back on, my first words are, well, I'm back. We had a little mishap here. And I get up and I go to walk down the aisle. The door to go back down the stairs is behind me. And the walkway going across my side of the gallery that I was on that path. And I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and finish filming. And I went to walk down the gallery. And when I did, about maybe 3 feet in front of me, I hit that barrier again, and there was no more walking down the gallery. I felt the resistance, and I said, well, we're just going to leave. And so I turned around, and I let him, Mr. Charlie, I let him go down the stairs before me, because I really didn't want anybody behind me at that point. And Mr. Charlie goes on down the stairs, and we go downstairs, and then he plays the other 2 recitals for me. Very nice gentleman, very courteous as far as the church and giving me the history of the church. Beautiful church. I look forward to going back. I really do. And I want to see the museum. But I did want to explain what was going on in the video, because my husband said, no, leave it. It was part of your video. And I went back to see if I could see anything, to get any ideas as to what happened, why I ended up literally flying those few feet in front of me, because the blow didn't just knock me over. The blow literally sent me forward, and I landed probably a foot away from where I was standing, foot and a half away from where I was standing. And I did land head first onto the railing. So it was an interesting time. It has been a long time since I have run into a situation like that. So put in the comments below what you thought. Will I go back? Oh, yes, I'm going back. It don't bother me. It was just a freak thing. So yes, I will be going back. I was treated very courteous there, and it was a beautiful place. So go ahead and watch this week's worth of videos here at Uniquely Cindy Roadside Cemeteries, and like, subscribe below, hit that like button, hit that notification button, leave a comment. If you know of a place, I am going on search for the Pirates of North Carolina. I'm going to be going in the next couple of weeks to John Lafatite's grave. Then I'm going to go on a search for Blackbeard. He is up around, from my understanding, Cape Hatteras, and so I'm going to be going up there to see if I can find Blackbeard's place of execution and his grave. Now, there's several controversies about where Blackbeard's actually buried, so I hope to be able to find out some more information. And then we have another famous grave here in North Carolina where the gentleman was scared of burial, so his father actually had a stonemason come and chisel out a hole in a stone that was on their property, and the gentleman was buried inside the stone, and there's a slab and all there showing this. I'm going to have to get permission from the family to visit that because it is on private property, and I have been told that it was closed due to vandalism. So I'm hoping that I can get permission to actually visit his grave. So come join us on our adventures, Uniquely Cindy. I'm enjoying it. I wanted to share any other experiences that come up. I will let you know about, but I did want to explain all the craziness that was going on in the video there. For those that have asked, I am fine. Thank you. Got some bruising, got some broke glasses. Fortunately, I just been to the eye doctor, so I got new glasses coming in next week. I just look a little funny right now. So, but it's great. But you have a unique week. Enjoy these unique videos that I'm fixing to share with you. Hopefully we'll have some Michael's videos coming up soon and some other things. But once again, thanks for your patronage. Please like and subscribe below and share with a friend. The more we share this, the quicker I can get my numbers up. It helps my algorithm, and it's a great plus. So I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Have a great 2026. Stay safe, and God bless.